The gavel slammed down, the sound echoing the emptiness that had taken root in my soul. They had done it. My own flesh and crimson had weaponized the very system I swore to uphold, twisting the law into a noose around my neck. The faces blurred, smug, satisfied, victorious. They thought they had silenced me. They believed they had broken me beyond repair. But in that moment of utter desolation, a cold, hard seed of retribution began to sprout. If you have a sibling who would stand by you against the world, subscribe now. My journey into the legal profession wasn't some grand, strategic climb to power. It was born from a simple, unwavering desire to help people, to be a voice for those who couldn't speak for themselves. My name is Heather, and growing up in a small town, I witnessed firsthand the crushing weight of injustice. I saw good people, hard-working people, get trampled by a system that seemed rigged against them. That's why I poured my heart and soul into law school, burning the midnight oil, sacrificing everything to become the best advocate I could be. And when I finally passed the bar, the sense of accomplishment was immense, a validation of years of tireless effort. I started small, taking on pro bono cases, representing battered women, fighting for tenants facing eviction. It wasn't glamorous, and it certainly wasn't lucrative, but it was meaningful. I was making a difference, one case at a time. My family, however, saw things differently. They viewed my passion as naivete, my commitment as foolish idealism. They couldn't understand why I wasn't chasing the big paychecks, the corner offices, the prestige that came with corporate law. To them, success was measured in dollars and cents, not in the lives you touched. The tension simmered beneath the surface, a constant undercurrent of disapproval that colored every family gathering. I tried to ignore it, to focus on my work, but their words stung, chipping away at my confidence. Then came the case that changed everything. A local business was polluting the town's water supply, causing serious health problems for residents, including children. It was a David versus Goliath battle, but I believed in the strength of my case, in the power of truth. I dedicated months to the investigation, gathering evidence, interviewing witnesses, building an airtight argument. The corporation, of course, fought back with every resource at their disposal, hiring high-powered attorneys, launching a smear campaign against me, trying to intimidate my witnesses. The pressure was immense, but I refused to back down. I knew that if I didn't fight for these people, no one would. The trial was a grueling affair, weeks of intense legal maneuvering, emotional testimony, and relentless attacks from the opposing counsel. But I held my ground, presenting my case with passion and conviction. The jury deliberated for days, and when they finally delivered their verdict, it was a victory. The corporation was found liable, ordered to clean up the pollution and compensate the victims. It was a landmark decision, a testament to the power of ordinary people to stand up to corporate greed. I felt a surge of pride, a sense of vindication. I had done it. I had made a real difference. My family's reaction, however, was far from celebratory. They saw the victory as a threat, a challenge to their own values. The corporation I had just battled was owned by a close friend of my father, a man who held considerable influence in the community. My father saw my actions as a personal betrayal, an act of disloyalty that could damage his own reputation and standing. The arguments escalated, becoming increasingly bitter and personal. They accused me of being reckless, of putting my own ambitions above the needs of the family. They couldn't understand why I would risk everything for a cause that didn't directly benefit them. The rift widened, becoming a chasm that seemed impossible to bridge. And then, the unthinkable happened. They reported me to the state bar, accusing me of practicing law illegally. The charges were baseless, fabricated out of spite and resentment. But the damage was done. An investigation was launched, my reputation was tarnished, and my career was put on hold. I was devastated, betrayed by the very people who were supposed to love and support me. The person I trusted most was one of them. The investigation was a slow-motion train wreck, each day bringing fresh humiliation and despair. My practice was suspended, my cases reassigned, my reputation dragged through the mud. Clients I had fought so hard for now looked at me with suspicion, their trust eroded by the whispers and rumors swirling around town. The phone stopped ringing, the emails went unanswered, and the once vibrant office became a tomb of shattered dreams. I tried to defend myself, to present evidence of my innocence, but it was like shouting into a hurricane. The Bar Association, under pressure from my family's connections, seemed determined to find me guilty, regardless of the facts. Sleepless nights became the norm, my mind racing with anxieties, replaying every conversation, every decision, searching for a way out of this nightmare. The weight of injustice was crushing, the feeling of being betrayed by my own family a constant ache in my chest. I lost weight, my eyes became hollow, and the spark that had once burned so brightly within me began to flicker and fade. I attempted to reason with my parents, to plead with them to see the truth, to understand the devastating consequences of their actions. But their hearts were hardened, their minds closed off to any possibility of reconciliation. They saw me as the enemy, a rebellious child who had dared to defy their authority. Their words were like daggers, each one twisting deeper into my soul. "You brought this on yourself," they would say, their voices cold and devoid of empathy. "You should have listened to us. You should have put family first." Desperate, I turned to my brother, Mark, hoping he could mediate to bridge the gap between us. He had always been the peacemaker, the voice of reason in our family. But even he seemed hesitant, caught between his loyalty to our parents and his affection for me. He tried to talk to them, to explain my side of the story, but they refused to listen. They accused him of taking my side, of betraying them as well. The pressure mounted, and Mark eventually withdrew, unable to withstand the constant conflict. I felt utterly alone, abandoned by everyone I had ever loved. I considered giving up, of admitting defeat, of simply walking away from everything I had worked so hard to achieve. The thought of escaping the pain, of finding peace in oblivion, was tempting. But then I thought of the people I had represented, the battered women, the evicted tenants, the victims of pollution. I thought of their faces, their stories, their hopes for justice. And I knew that I couldn't let them down. I couldn't let my family win. I had to fight back, not just for myself, but for everyone who had ever been wronged by the system. The seed of retribution, planted in that courtroom, began to grow stronger, fueled by anger, resentment, and a burning desire to expose the truth. I started documenting everything, recording every conversation, saving every email, gathering evidence of my family's lies and manipulations. I knew it was a risky strategy, but I had nothing left to lose. I was determined to clear my name and to make them pay for what they had done. The darkness had come for me, but it would soon be their turn. I focused my energy on uncovering the truth, digging into my father's business dealings, scrutinizing his connections, searching for any hint of wrongdoing. It was a painstaking process, filled with dead ends and false leads, but I refused to give up. I knew that somewhere, buried beneath layers of wealth and influence, there was a secret that could bring them all crashing down. And I wouldn't rest until I found it. The days turned into weeks, the weeks into months. My life was consumed by the investigation, a relentless pursuit of justice that bordered on obsession. I became a ghost, haunting the shadows, watching, listening, waiting for the opportune moment to strike. The smile never left my face.
The days bled into weeks, each one a carbon copy of the last, a relentless cycle of despair, isolation, and the gnawing fear that I would never escape this abyss. I lost my appetite, my clothes hanging loosely on my frame. Sleep offered no respite, only a parade of nightmares where faceless figures pointed and laughed, their voices echoing my parents' accusations. I was a pariah, a disgrace, a cautionary tale whispered in hushed tones. The weight of their betrayal pressed down on me, suffocating me, stealing the very breath from my lungs. One evening, as a storm raged outside, mirroring the turmoil within me, I found myself standing on the edge of the bridge, the churning river below a tempting invitation to oblivion. The rain lashed against my face, blurring my vision, washing away the last vestiges of hope. The darkness beckoned, promising an end to the pain, the humiliation, the endless cycle of suffering. I closed my eyes, the wind whipping through my hair, ready to surrender, to let go of everything. But then a flicker of memory ignited within me, the face of a young girl I had helped escape an abusive home, the grateful tears of a tenant I had saved from eviction, the unwavering trust of a community ravaged by pollution. Their faces swam before me, their voices whispering in my ear, reminding me of the purpose I had almost forgotten. They needed me. I couldn't abandon them, not now, not ever. The darkness might be tempting, but the light of justice was stronger. I stepped back from the edge, my body trembling, my heart pounding in my chest. The rain continued to fall, washing away the tears, cleansing the soul. That night, huddled in my apartment, surrounded by files and documents, I made a decision. I would not let them break me. I would not let them steal my dreams. I would fight back, not with anger or hatred, but with intelligence, with strategy, with an unwavering determination to expose their lies and reclaim my life. The transition wasn't easy. The pain was still there, a constant reminder of their cruelty. But I refused to let it consume me. I channeled my energy into the investigation, poring over financial records, tracing connections, piecing together the puzzle of my father's empire. I became a student of their weaknesses, their vulnerabilities, their hidden secrets. I learned their patterns, their habits, their darkest desires. And as I delved deeper, I began to uncover a web of corruption that stretched far beyond my family, a network of influential figures who were willing to do anything to protect their power and wealth. The corporation I had battled was just the tip of the iceberg. My father was involved in shady deals, backroom agreements, and illicit activities that could bring down the entire house of cards. The evidence was mounting, the truth was within reach, and the seed of retribution was about to blossom. I started to see the board. I wasn't just fighting for myself anymore. This was bigger than me.
My focus sharpened. I was silent. They made a mistake. They thought I was broken. The smile returned, cold and calculating. They would soon learn what it meant to underestimate a woman with nothing left to lose. The game had changed. I was no longer the victim. I was the planner, and I was about to turn their world upside down. I smiled, a genuine smile this time, the first in what felt like an eternity. They saw it as a sign of weakness, a tacit admission of defeat. They basked in their perceived victory, their arrogance blinding them to the storm brewing beneath the surface. I played their game, attending family dinners, feigning remorse, even offering to seek professional help to address my rebellious tendencies. They ate it up, their self-satisfaction palpable. But every word, every gesture, every interaction was carefully calculated, a performance designed to lull them into a false sense of security. Because while they were celebrating their triumph, I was meticulously constructing their downfall. My apartment transformed into a war room, a chaotic symphony of legal documents, financial statements, and surveillance equipment. I invested in high-end audio recorders, discrete cameras, and forensic software, turning my living space into a makeshift intelligence agency. Every phone call was recorded, every meeting documented, every email archived. I even hired a private investigator, a former law enforcement officer named Sarah, to help me uncover the hidden details of my father's business dealings. Sarah was a no-nonsense professional, with a sharp mind and an even sharper wit. She had seen it all, and nothing seemed to faze her. She became my confidant, my ally, and my sounding board, providing invaluable insights and support throughout the planning process. One of the most crucial pieces of evidence came from an unexpected source, my brother, Mark. Despite his initial hesitation, he couldn't completely shake off his conscience. He started leaving cryptic messages, subtly hinting at my father's illegal activities. One day, he slipped me a USB drive containing confidential documents from my father's office. The files revealed a complex web of offshore accounts, shell corporations, and fraudulent transactions. It was the smoking gun I needed, irrefutable proof of my father's corruption. But possessing the evidence was only half the battle. I needed to find a way to expose it without incriminating myself, to ensure that my family couldn't twist the narrative and use it against me. That's where Sarah's expertise came in. She helped me develop a strategy to anonymously leak the information to the authorities, using encrypted channels and untraceable IP addresses. We carefully crafted a narrative that would paint my father as the sole perpetrator, minimizing the involvement of other family members. It was a risky gamble,
but it was the only way to protect myself while still bringing him to justice.
The closer I got to the truth, the more paranoid my family became. They started monitoring my phone calls, tracking my movements, and even hiring their own private investigators to keep tabs on me. I knew I was walking a tightrope. One wrong move could expose my entire operation. One evening, while I was working late in my apartment, I heard a knock at the door. It was my father. He barged in, his face flushed with anger, accusing me of spying on him. He had somehow discovered that I was investigating his business dealings. I feigned ignorance, pretending to be shocked and hurt by his accusations. I told him that I was simply trying to understand his world, to bridge the gap between us. He didn't believe me, of course. He threatened me, warning me to back off, to stop digging into his affairs. He reminded me of the power he wielded, the influence he possessed, the consequences I would face if I crossed him. I stood my ground, refusing to be intimidated. I told him that I was no longer afraid of him, that I was determined to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. He stormed out of the apartment, his face contorted with rage. I knew that I had crossed a line, that the stakes had just been raised. He would stop at nothing to protect his secrets, even if it meant silencing me permanently. I had to act fast. The next few days were a blur of activity. I finalized the plan to leak the evidence, secured my digital assets, and prepared for the inevitable backlash. I knew that once the truth came out, my life would never be the same. But I was ready. I had come too far to back down now. I was armed with the truth, fueled by a burning desire for justice, and determined to make them pay for what they had done. The exact day they tried to end me, I exposed the truth. The walls were closing in. I felt it, a suffocating pressure that intensified with each passing hour. My father's threats echoed in my mind, a constant reminder of the danger I was in. I knew he was capable of anything, that he would stop at nothing to protect his empire. Sleep became a luxury I could no longer afford. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle outside my window sent my heart racing. I was living on borrowed time, waiting for the inevitable confrontation. I had to move quickly, to finalize my plan before he could silence me. Their biggest weakness? They thought they were untouchable. That arrogance, that unwavering belief in their own invincibility was the chink in their armor, the key to their downfall. They had grown complacent, confident that their wealth and influence could shield them from any consequences. They underestimated me, dismissing me as a naive, emotional woman who would eventually crumble under pressure. But they were wrong. I was stronger than they ever imagined, fueled by a righteous fury and a burning desire for retribution. I used their arrogance against them. I let them see what they wanted to see, a broken woman on the verge of giving up. I played the part of the defeated daughter, seeking their approval, begging for their forgiveness. They ate it up, relishing in their perceived victory. It was all a carefully constructed facade, designed to lull them into a false sense of security, to blind them to the trap I was setting. I decided to use their upcoming annual charity gala as the stage for my grand reveal. It was the perfect venue, a gathering of the city's elite, a showcase of their wealth and power. My father always reveled in the attention, using the event to solidify his position and network with influential figures. It was his kingdom, his domain, and I was about to tear it all down. I leaked rumors that I was planning to make a grand gesture of reconciliation at the gala, a public apology for my misguided behavior. My parents were ecstatic. They believed they had finally broken me, that I was ready to return to the fold. They couldn't wait to parade me in front of their friends, to showcase their victory. I even allowed my mother to help me choose a dress for the occasion, a stunning emerald green gown that she thought would make me look appropriately demure. Little did she know, that dress was my armor, my camouflage, my disguise for the night. The days leading up to the gala were a whirlwind of activity. Sarah worked tirelessly to prepare the evidence, creating a multimedia presentation that would expose my father's crimes in excruciating detail. We compiled financial records, emails, and recorded conversations, weaving them together into a compelling narrative that would leave no room for doubt. We also reached out to several investigative journalists, providing them with anonymous tips and promising them an exclusive story that would rock the city. I wanted to ensure that the truth would be heard, even if my family tried to suppress it. The night of the gala arrived, a glittering spectacle of wealth and privilege. I walked into the ballroom, my head held high, my face adorned with a carefully crafted smile. My parents greeted me with open arms, their faces beaming with pride. They led me through the crowd, introducing me to their friends and colleagues, basking in the attention they were receiving. I played along, pretending to be the dutiful daughter, exchanging pleasantries and feigning interest in their shallow conversations. But beneath the surface, my heart was pounding, my senses on high alert. I was a predator in disguise, patiently waiting for the opportune moment to strike. As the evening progressed, my father took to the stage to deliver his annual speech, a self-congratulatory monologue about his achievements and his commitment to the community. The crowd listened attentively, applauding politely at his carefully crafted platitudes. This was it, my moment. As he reached the climax of his speech, I signaled to Sarah, who was stationed backstage. She initiated the countdown.
3, 2, 1. The lights flickered, the music faded, and the screens behind my father flickered to life. The image of his offshore account appeared first, followed by emails, memos, recordings. His face went white. The room went still. The gasp I suppressed, I had been waiting for this day. Now the world would see him for what he was. The screens displayed every secret he thought was buried, every lie he ever told, every person he ever cheated. Gasps rippled through the crowd, the polite applause replaced by murmurs of shock and disbelief. My father stood frozen, his face a mask of disbelief and horror. He tried to speak, to protest, but the words caught in his throat. The presentation continued, relentlessly exposing his network of corruption, naming names, revealing dates, and detailing amounts. People started to leave, the clinking of champagne glasses replaced by the hurried shuffle of feet. The room, once filled with laughter and music, was now thick with tension and fear. My mother stood beside him, her face crumbling as she watched her carefully constructed world collapse around her. I could see the hurt in her eyes, the realization that the man she loved was not the man she thought he was. But there was also a flicker of anger, a hint of understanding, as if she had always suspected the truth but had chosen to ignore it. He tried to grab the microphone, but I gave another hand signal. The feed cut to a live stream of his illegal factory being raided by the authorities. I released my mic, and the microphone feedback screeched like a banshee from hell. The police arrived, their sirens piercing the stunned silence. They approached my father, their faces grim, and placed him under arrest. He didn't resist, his spirit finally broken. As they led him away in handcuffs, he looked at me, his eyes filled with a mixture of hatred and defeat. It was a look I would never forget, a testament to the power of truth and the consequences of betrayal. The room was almost empty now. The only remaining guests were reporters who swarmed me like vultures, their cameras flashing, their microphones thrust in my face. I answered their questions calmly and factually, providing them with copies of the evidence and directing them to Sarah, who was waiting to provide further details. I knew that the story would be front-page news, that my father's reputation would be shattered beyond repair, but I didn't feel any joy or satisfaction, only a sense of emptiness, a quiet understanding that the battle was won, but the war was far from over. My mother approached me, her eyes filled with tears. She didn't say anything. She simply hugged me tightly, her body trembling. I hugged her back, feeling a pang of sympathy for the woman who had been so blinded by her ambition and her love for my father. I whispered that I did what I had to do, and she seemed to understand. They lost everything. I just smiled.
The fallout was swift and devastating. My father's company was seized, his assets frozen, his reputation ruined. He was charged with multiple counts of fraud, corruption, and tax evasion. My brother, Mark, despite his initial reluctance, cooperated with the authorities, providing valuable testimony that helped to secure my father's conviction. My mother was left to pick up the pieces, struggling to come to terms with the truth about her husband and the legacy of his crimes. The family name, once synonymous with wealth and power, was now a symbol of disgrace and corruption. As for me, I became an overnight sensation, a symbol of courage and resilience, a champion for justice. I received countless messages of support and admiration from people all over the world, many of whom had been affected by my father's actions. I used my newfound platform to advocate for corporate accountability, to expose corruption, and to empower others to stand up to injustice. I started a foundation to help victims of corporate greed, providing them with legal assistance, financial support, and emotional counseling. I dedicated my life to fighting for the voiceless, to ensuring that no one would ever suffer the same fate as I did. I found myself standing on that same bridge, the river flowing below, reflecting the city lights. But this time, I wasn't contemplating ending at all. I was looking forward to a future filled with purpose and meaning. The nightmares still haunted me. The memories of the betrayal still lingered, but they no longer held the same power over me. I had faced my demons, I had conquered my fears, and I had emerged stronger and wiser than ever before. I thought about revenge. I thought about the cost. And I finally understood. Revenge isn't sweet. It's necessary. It's about taking back what was stolen from you, about holding people accountable for their actions, about creating a world where justice prevails. It's about standing up for what's right, even when it's hard, even when it's scary, even when it means sacrificing everything. I smiled. The wind carried my tears away. Would you have done the same? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe for more justice.